Let's take a look at the coefficient of variation. Here's the formula. The coefficient of variation is simply the standard deviation divided by the mean multiplied by 100%. And we use the coefficient of variation when we need to check the variation on two sets of data that are not in the same scale. So maybe one is inches, one is centimeters. They can't really be compared apples to apples, so to speak. There is no Excel formula, but we're going to do it in Excel manually. It's very simple to do. So let's take a look at some data in Excel. So here we have set A, and here's our values for set A. And it has a mean of 6.33 and a standard deviation of 4.85. I used the standard Excel formulas to get these values. And here's set B data, and you can see that the scale is quite different. Whereas this one has single and double digits, here we're into triple and quadruple digits. So it's going to be very hard to compare these two. On the surface, the mean is much higher, and the standard deviation is much higher. So if we just looked at the standard deviation and took the values, we would say that set B has a much higher variation because the standard deviation is over 65 versus 4.85. The coefficient of variation, however, is going to tell us the variation or the standard deviation as a percentage of the mean, and that's going to give us a better indication comparing these two together. So to calculate the coefficient of variation, simply type in the equal sign to start a formula, and then I'm simply going to open parentheses, divide the standard deviation divided by the mean. I'm simply pointing at where this information is. Close the parentheses, multiplied by 100%. And then I just press enter. I go over to set B, do the same thing. Equals, parenthesis, standard deviation is here, divided by the mean, which is here, close the parenthesis, times 100%. Now the only thing left to do is I'm going to highlight both of these cells and format them as percentages. So now if we take a look, and here's the formula at the bottom in case you missed it. Now if we look at it, the coefficient of variation for set A is 77%. If you look at it, the standard deviation is only 4.85, but compare that to a mean of 6.33, that's a lot of variation. Whereas set B has a standard deviation of 65.86, which seems like a lot, but if you look at the mean is over 1,000, 65 really isn't all that much. So the coefficient of variation gives us a good way to compare non-standardized data by looking at the variation as a percent.